King of the Hill is a show which I never really thought I would review, because for one, it has ended, and also its realism made it seem as though it would be hard to review. King of the Hill is one of my favorite adult cartoons, probably my favorite show there on Fox, as well as in my top 100 shows of all time. So I kind of wanted to just leave it alone. But recently, for whatever reason, I found myself binge watching a bunch of episodes of the show. Watching King of the Hill, I sometimes forget it's animated and even a show. It just feels like I'm watching a random 22 minutes of a family's life. With that said though, some of the episodes of the show take me out of that illusion as just being so stupid. For example, Bobby Goes Nuts, the episode in which Bobby constantly kicks people in their testicles. Bobby kicks so hard that he even kicks Hank's testicles all the way into his body. But for some reason, whenever he kicks Peggy in between her legs, she is completely immune. It's almost as if the episode literally thinks that vaginas are some sort of indestructible shield. Plus a few other episodes that will probably be getting their own reviews. Today, I'd like to review a good episode of the show though. I've chosen this particular episode because of a new rule I came up with for my videos going forward. If something makes me tear up on my first viewing, then I have to review it. Because yeah, this episode is fairly sad, and it's not melodramatic. Something that I don't like or care about usually are pet or baby characters. This is because it is impossible for them to grow as characters or interact with the other cats. The only way to break this is to make them not act like a pet or baby, which kind of defeats the purpose. There are very little differences between Dill Pickles and Lily Loud, for example. Do you want to know what is even less of a character? An inanimate object. The reason I bring this up is because this episode is about Hank's truck dying. Yes, Hank's truck dying, which is an object. Why should we care? I mean, doesn't Hank being upset about this make him materialistic? Well, I suppose it does a bit, but I don't necessarily think this is the reason why he's so upset. It's tough losing something you care about, and this doesn't matter what it is. Now, I don't think this is the same severity of losing an actual person, but it is still hard. Hank has had his truck for 20 years. He has grown attached to it over the years. It is normal to grow attached to an object or vehicle. No, not that attached. A truck is something that you actually need, which is one reason to be upset. I think the biggest reason is because of all the memories he has had in the truck. The truck has become somewhat a part of the family at this point. He had it pretty much his whole marriage with Peggy, and it's the only vehicle of his that Bobby has ridden in. As weird as it sounds, the family wouldn't be the same had Hank chosen another vehicle. Anyhow, we should take a look at this episode to see what Hank truly goes through.
There have been times it brought tears to my eyes because I wasn't with him.
The episode starts out with Hank, Peggy, Bobby, and Connie getting ready to see a chick flick. Here we see the first of Hank's car trouble. Hank looks under the hood with his friends, and Peggy suggests that Hank should just have a mechanic look at it. The guys are offended by this, especially Hank. However, they do end up getting it to work and go to the movies. On the film, the dad of the movie gets stuck under a tractor, but his son is unable to help him, and the dad ends up dying. This ends up making Hank cry. At this point, we aren't exactly sure why though. Peggy, Nancy, and Dell notice Hank crying, and Peggy tries to comfort him, whereas Dell is just confused by this, as Hank is the last person to cry about anything. Later that night, when Peggy is brushing her teeth, Hank sees the advertisement for the movie on his TV. This makes Hank tear up once again, so he immediately turns it off. Peggy confronts him and calls herself an amateur psychologist. Peggy brings up the suggestion that he was crying because of his relationship with Cotton, but Hank denies this. Then she suggests it is because of his relationship with Bobby. Hank denies this as well and claims he wasn't crying as there is something wrong with his eyes. The next day, Hank's friends make fun of him before he goes to see the eye doctor, which of course was a waste of time. In the mall parking lot, whenever Hank and Peggy are leaving, Hank has more trouble with his truck. Peggy is hassling him, telling him that he just needs to admit he was crying because of Bobby. Hank gives in and admits to crying at the movie theater and tells her that it wasn't because of Bobby or Cotton, but instead his truck. Peggy nearly laughs about this and would rather be right than help.
What a bitch.
Hank begins really crying because this time he cannot get his truck to even turn on. Sometime later, he gives in and calls a pickup truck to send it to a mechanic. The mechanic tells Hank basically there is nothing they can do, but Hank doesn't accept this. Hank's friends see him working on his truck and feel sorry for Hank and know what will happen to the truck. Hank seemingly fixes his truck, but it catches on fire. The guys drink beer in front of his truck so that Hank can keep putting out the fire until the engine runs out. We then get a flashback to whenever Hank first showed Peggy the truck. I've mentioned before, flashbacks are a good way to convey emotion and give some backstory to whatever the problem may be. Hank goes to work almost late, but Buck doesn't have the time to hear the reason why. Because he made a terrible business decision and they are on the verge of losing a client. On the drive to the meeting, Hank's truck has some issues where he has to turn up the heat. This causes Hank and Buck to get very sweaty during the meeting and even causes Buck to pass out. Good. We then see Hank come home from work pissed and he yells at Bobby. Bobby understands that his dad's frustration is because of his truck, but Peggy is a terrible person. She still believes it was because of Bobby.
What a bitch.
Peggy tells Bobby to spend time with Hank, but Bobby, being an actual good person, decides to help Hank fix the truck. Bobby notices an ad in the newspaper for a place called Pickup Truck Heaven, assuming this is another mechanic because information being covered due to the oil. Bobby shows Hank the ad and tells Hank that he had already called the place and they said no problem. As we later learn, Bobby left out some key information as the place wasn't for a mechanic but instead a car sales place. Hank is obviously a little peeved about this and they head home. Unfortunately, the truck breaks down on a train track. Hank cannot push it, so he goes to fix it. Then we see the saddest moment possibly in the entire show as a train comes by and destroys the truck. Hank scolds Bobby over this and the two head back to the sales place. Hank goes to tell Bobby that he is going to use the payphone only to find that Bobby has left. A stranger tells Hank that Bobby said he was going to walk home. Hank tells the car salesman that he needs to test drive a truck. We then see Bobby cross the train track to find the gear shift from Hank's deceased truck. We see Hank go to find Bobby, and during the drive there, he actually really enjoys the new truck. Hank finds a muddy Bobby, and we get a pretty emotional moment with Bobby telling Hank he loved the truck as well. Bobby reluctantly climbs into the new truck and enjoys the features. Bobby gives Hank the gear shift and then the two cry because of the new truck. They then go back to buy the new truck as the episode ends. This episode shows that you can have a character deal with death without having another character die. This episode also puts an interesting light onto Hank's character, as it puts Hank into an underdog sort of role, which is something that I don't think we ever really see again. I wouldn't say this episode is even my favorite of the show, as that would be a firefighting we will go. My only real problem with this episode is that the eye doctor scene could have been cut entirely. The episode should have just had the mall parking lot scene take place in Hank's driveway as Peggy and him talk about going to the eye doctor. Plus, removing the eye doctor scene would give more time into another flashback, this time showing something with Hank, Bobby, and the truck. Possibly even Hank driving a pregnant Peggy to the hospital ready to give birth to Bobby. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Remember to subscribe, hit the bell notification, and follow me on Twitter for frequent updates.